years?
Yeah.
Maybe 4 or...
It's nice out in a grove. My sister lives in up Canyon by the beach in a castle.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No.
In Lobo Canyon,
Oh, cool.
right off of Triunfo.
Oh, we're looking at a
we're looking
place
at houses in
on
there.
Triumpho.
Wow.
Yep. You're looking for houses to rent or buy?
No, we're doing a sober
buy.
living. We're gonna open up a sober living.
What do you want to do?
We're gonna open up a sober living.
Ah,
So
Yeah.
we saw a house that was on
We're trying to
Triumpho.
do a whole lot of stuff.
Don't say trying.
Striving.
We are doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing it.
You're doing it.
Yeah,
And
we're
she got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Striving.
Community, we're streaming the meeting. We're not like anonymous. AA is cool. It's a part of. It's one of the many things that we use to be healthy. And
there's one sober living place up Canaan on the left-hand side. Yeah, they have some big ass house that they have a bunch of people in. Right up Canaan. I mean, go up Canaan towards the beach. Right when you first go past the Chevron station, once you get toward the beach side, about a half a mile off the road on the left, there's they got looks like a house. It's like 1.5 million or something. It's a bigger place that they have one sober living there. But in Triunfo Canyon, there's a place at the end of the road
What's up?
Hey, how are you?
that is down that we're looking at. There's a couple places that have a lot of property.
This is grounding me too much.
Oh, yeah?
That
Fall asleep,
you may be able to
fall out.
rent
Jordan.
that are private as fuck.
Oh, you did me.
Cayenne pepper.
Where'd you guys
Well, we're
go?
not renting. We're buying.
Damn.
Go to buy those fucking things.
Give you like bottles and bottles of habanero.
He was at like.
All kinds of
That's what you're getting rid of, huh?
But
I can't have
it's
it
a
anymore.
smoking
I'm gonna
business.
take
If
that
it,
to my swigger.
you get the
Yeah.
right people, and if you do it right,
I got
I mean,
next time
like
I
say,
come, I
they
get
got that
more
one
shit.
in
I
Malibu. I've been to a couple in
tablespoons
Malibu.
shit. Good stuff
I'm gonna
too.
take all kind of shit to my
They
swigger.
charge. Oh, they charge it. Well, some of them they use insurance, and some people have stupid money. There's some finance guys from Wall Street there. They're paying like 80 grand a month.
Yeah.
Fucking nuts.
Well, that's through insurance. Yeah, I mean, we're not sober living. You can't charge.
I end up doing
Oh,
this
wait a
with
minute.
cows.
Sober living's different. It's not like a
Well,
real.
this cat cow.
Oh, different. Sober living is when you put people in rooms and you get them there halfway house.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, that's very good.
Structure, taking a meeting.
Oh, well then you won't spend anywhere near that for a house.
Probably not.
You can do that.
Oh, man, you should have told me. I got all that
But
shit.
we actually eventually will trade.
Yeah, but I was in
We'll
the.
turn it into a
It's
treatment center, but it takes like how long to get licensed? 6 months
I
or
was
something.
drinking.
it's not it's not cheap there, but you could find
Oh,
places
you know what? I'm
there
gonna put my
probably
food in
from
the fucking fridge.
There you go.
1.25
I was smart. I
to
brought
2.5
food
that you
tonight.
get while
You want me to put it in the fridge?
Could you?
Yeah, of course.
It's just this little. It's just this one little thing.
Okay,
That's it.
that's it?
That's my
Okay,
breakfast,
that's
lunch,
it?
and dinner. That's
Really?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Up there, Canaan.
My breakfast lunch
Rancho.
Yeah. I hear you, brother.
and Topanga.
Year and a half of that
There's tons of
juice.
places. I
This-
was looking.
Tanga's cool.
Exactly, but.
I was looking there because I just sold my house.
Cow
I was looking places to buy, and
Smooth. My blood, this
I-
morning my
I-
blood sugar
so
was down to
I
70.
decided after
how do
looking
you
at
do
the
that?
market, I think they're
Balls
going. I
off
think
for
this
4
country's
days.
going to a severe
What you done
economic
for 30
depression
days, man?
that'll last at least 5 years. So,
You're starting to
so
get.
that's why I can't do that.
I was seeing some abs this
I'm in
morning.
the film
Yeah,
business,
you're starting to get
but I think my family's on half of my family.
Took
a
my
lot of them on
befores.
Wall Street.
I'm doing the
I could
snake
have done
juice
that as
thing.
well, but I
You
have an
shouldn't be
education
doing
in
that.
that.
You
But
shouldn't
I
be doing fucking
I do
combo
film
when
and
you're
finance, but I
fasting.
think
No, I eat Wednesday,
That-
Thursday,
You're
Friday.
on the finance side of film.
both, no,
Tasha
both. I do
told me
both.
at
I'm
least
on the
3
creative
days.
side.
At least
I produced a
3 days,
documentary
bro,
on that's
I
what
might
called
start eating
Ronda Rousey
tomorrow.
about MMA, about
Bro,
the world.
I almost
Ronda
died.
Rousey.
Oh, I
I
saw
want to gain all that
Great.
fucking
Oh,
weight
that's
back.
cool.
Bro,
There's two of us that made the film. Me and
you
her.
wanna not
I was in it with a I had a
almost
woolly
died.
hat on at her house, and I was
Dude, I almost,
Ronda.
I felt it in that warrior and this shit.
But
Dude, I
I
almost died from
I got another one. A couple things I wrote.
It just kept coming out greener and greener and greener.
Bro, I mean, people that are administering combo gotta know what the fuck they're doing. See, that fucking Nadine almost killed me with combo.
No, I'm gonna eat. Not too heavy, 1 meal a day. It
Vanya,
ain't like that. Salad.
fucking crazy Vanya was there. She saved my fucking life, man. She poured a bucket of ice cold water
I
on top
bet you
of
she
me.
did.
She saved my fucking shit, man.
Is it like immediately?
What's up, brother?
Huh? Yeah, it really is.
What's up, brother?
20 minutes,
Ready, dude?
I'm always born ready. Oh, you keep doing that, man. Shit.
Yeah, in case you gotta get limber, dude. You know what I mean?
You know I
You don't want to have to hurt that little guy, right?
you know I lay on spike mats when I'm at home.
Oh, I ordered one of them
a
shits,
TV show
man.
that's supposed to start in
Yeah, I
March.
ordered
about
that,
the
man.
Valentine's.
Yeah, man. The mat
Well,
is
it's in
taking
reality,
forever
so I'm
to
gonna
the
have to-
Yeah.
spike mat, but I got the pillow. It
I
came.
ordered it on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, the same one you sent
Bang,
me.
bang, 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 bang.
Spike?
No, I don't have.
I guess whatever you sent me, that's what I ordered.
Yeah, I got it right from the guy.
Thailand or something,
Yeah,
it's got copper in there. and
taking a
shit.
while to get here, dude.
Sometimes it be like that, man.
Yeah, it's alright.
That's all
I
right.
got these sandals with the pressure points on them
Oh, I had one of
that you
those.
stand on.
Yeah, those just hurt, man.
Well, I got the foot massager too, dude, and I put my feet on those spikes.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah, man.
A week ago.
I'm doing all kind of shit, dude.
Good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go to rehab and then I'm gonna move back. Because I wanted to not be out here when I was trying to detox.
Oh,
It was already
that's
hard
all right.
enough to
Whatever.
get back and be like,
No, no, that's okay. You can sit there. You can sit at the next one.
You know, like all the bars that I used to go to because since the lockdown.
People
You know,
are making themselves at home.
Panama
I guess
City,
so.
like, no one
Hey,
else
buddy.
was touching
I
me.
had in somebody's ear.
But just so you know, 2 months ago,
How are you?
and
Pete could talk more shit than the fucking radio,
starting
man.
together.
Did you see that piece, Danielle?
Which piece?
She signed it to you on the back.
No, I love it. It's. I'm putting it on my wall.
Thank you. What did she say? Thank you for
Thanks for everything. How cute
Yeah.
is she?
So long as I can say my
She's
9
I
years
love
old,
her.
dude.
Let me see that.
My daughter painted that.
Oh, that's badass, man. She's a
Cup of
trip.
coffee.
Yeah, there you go. What's it say for the?
Thanks for everything.
Oh,
She spelled it like
that's sweet, man.
her 9-year-old grammar.
Love her.
She's a badass,
Thank
man.
you.
I'll bring her one of these days.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, you should. She's great, man.
I'm good. You want water?
Speak to her, man. Look at himself.
Yeah, he's the best. God, Rudy, I'm so glad you're here. It's amazing. So,
Yeah.
are what?
It's gonna be fun.
Are you, are you, I know, it's so amazing.
I need a big book in a 12 and 12.
Are you, oh, okay,
You living out, bro?
you living out here?
Yeah, I am. I got a job at this reading room and I'm
You
living
got
at
it
the
all
gym.
right here,
I
man.
got it, but I like to show it.
Yeah. Where? Like off Rosita. Yeah. It's only 20 minutes.
Yeah, my family, they all live in Philly.
Yeah. I've only been just back here for a week. Florida.
There we go.
Maybe Florida. North Florida. In the Bible Belt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my bad.
What's wrong?
I'm also in Alabama, so.
The sign, we forgot the sign.
No, you're good.
You want to block just so we can hear him
That's
coming?
actually a really good idea.
Did you hear him coming?
You ain't coming, bro.
That's such a good idea. Is that he'll just still have to make noise.
Yeah.
Last week.
Well, it needs to be
Well,
like,
he's skinny. He'll slip right past that shit.
Yeah.
Maybe I can obstacle
See, crazy.
course back
It was like
there.
not without me hearing. It's all love, though. Did you hear what happened?
Well, I'm hearing now.
You know
that-
Charlie? You remember
So
Charlie?
it
My
was just
little
uncalled for.
cousins, the guys we fought on the boat.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Remember
kind of
that?
entertaining.
Yeah, he just
Well, I
he
kind
showed
of
up
entertain his
talking
face.
shit right in the middle of the live stream, like knowing we were live streaming. Talking shit. Oh shit, he's probably watching right now.
Oh,
All right.
I love him though.
Where's Billy?
I love that kid. Billy's gonna be a little bit late, so he asked Mikey to lead the meeting
Great.
instead of him.
All right, Mike. Where is Mikey here yet, or?
We're on page 48.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I mean, we're trying to do something a little different from like the Zoom meetings, because the
48.
Zoom meetings are kind of like impersonal, and this is like a fellowship, and we can kind of hang out and look at each other in the
gonna
eyes and
recap?
shit. But also, other people who
Bottom
aren't
paragraph.
here
Okay.
can be a part of it. So we have
Got it.
like, you know, a good amount
Beat it
of
up
other
last week.
people watching, just so you know. And we're gonna address some of their questions. And maybe if you could just kind of,
I'm watching.
yeah. So we're gonna do a little
Do you want to do a recap or no?
4-minute meditation.
Or you just want to get right into the?
Well, we're gonna do the 4-minute meditation just to start it, just to chill the
Okay.
fuck out, and just try to just do nothing for 4 minutes, which is really impossible, pretty much impossible for me.
Yeah, I'm saying.
It's Monday. We've had long weekends.
All right, so. Another time.
I can do that.
You know what time? 4 minutes. Awesome.
DDA's running late. He'll be here soon. What page are we on? 49.
48 at the bottom.
So we just read the Beatitudes. We have 2 new people here, Jordan and Rudy
And Brittany.
and Brittany
Pete,
And Pete.
and Pete.
And Pete.
Four, sorry.
new.
And probably a bunch of new people in the fucking cloud over there. So we're reading the Sermon on the Mount, translated by a dude named Emmett Fox, who, I mean, I'm sure one of you guys probably has a little bit of background or insight. Emmett Fox was
He
kind
was
of
a
like,
biblical scholar that was a part of the new thought of Christianity.
he was very popular back in the 30s. He had like huge followings. He would
like without him, maybe there's no AA.
Oh,
right?
that
For
was
sure.
what they used in AA as the big book for the
Yes.
first, before they wrote the big book. for the
Yeah.
first-
Yeah, they would go see him at Rockefeller Center
Yep.
in New York.
So
Carnegie
the reason
Hall,
the
fucking-
reason I like this is because you don't really need being sober has really nothing to do with this. So you don't need to be sober to be here or to be listening or to be benefiting from this. I mean, some of us here need to be sober. I need to be sober, or else my life will fall apart pretty quickly. But it's more about focusing on
Staying in the now.
yeah, this is a design for living, and it's a design for like combating this ego and
What's the subtitle to that book?
the key to success in life.
There you go.
Money,
External.
bitches,
In
pop.
the
It's
book-
like success in my brain.
In the
you know?
book, it says true success is success in prayer. That's
Oh.
what that's from
He
this
wrote a
book.
book before this called The Power of Constructive Thinking, which
Yeah.
I read 15 years ago. And the book, it teaches you how to pray properly. In other words, one thing in it is like he has a chapter that says blessing and cursing in it. I mean, if you say, hey, fuck you, fuck this. Oh, I love you, bless you. Fuck this, bless you. If you're blessing and cursing, those two energies flatten out. What you have to do is focus on what your thought is, so the way you bless becomes infinitely higher. So if you bless 50-50, it gets canceled, but if you go 40-60, 30-70, 20-80, when you get up to 80%, because you have to be careful how you speak, what comes out, what you think, because thoughts are things and they have power, and if the profane words that we use actually takes down the vibration in your body. I feel it in my solar plexus when I do that. So when you're conscious of how if you speak ethically to other people, or you have to start with yourself. If you speak ethically to yourself, you will speak ethically to others. If you're kind and forgiving and loving with yourself, you will also put that frequency out to other beings. If you continue that practice, the more diligent you are, and even if you screw up, immediately go to forgiveness, because then you're then training yourself to forgive. Because the one power is, if you hold any resentment between you and another being, you also hold that same resentment between you and the Creator. So you want to keep a clear and pure conscience, and there's a path to doing that. That's what Emmett Fox was so good about, because he'd give you affirmations. If you're ever in lower frequencies, he'd say, God is love, God is love, God is love. Or, I'm a divine child of God, and keep repeating that. Because when you're down, if you start repeating that, if you're feeling down here, you can lift it up, because we're responsible. We put stress on ourselves. We put everything. We control our joy, hate, love, kindness. Our frequency, oh, he stressed me out. I blame you. You pissed me off. How does someone piss you off?
You allow
when
it.
you allow
We
someone to
read
piss you
about
off.
that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of really doing some
So that's what that
internal
book's
work.
about,
Yeah.
and it's called.
Well,
The
it's
Power
a
of
compilation
Constructive
of a lot
Prayers.
of different
Yeah.
things, including the Sermon on the Mount.
So Emmett
It's-
Fox, he's
it's
written
in that.
multiple books.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know of
All
another
to
one
your life.
too. Yeah, someone recently was telling me how you don't go in the forest and start going, damn, that tree's fucking crooked. Like, what the fuck? Just go, oh, that's a cool tree. Like, so like I have people in my life that bug me or piss me off, and I get annoyed. I'm like, it's hard to be in acceptance.
But see, you could change your, you could
people
change.
and their thing, you know. My name's Patrick.
Patrick,
And I'm an alcoholic.
I was gonna say, when you're speaking
I
and
don't
you
know
go,
what's happening right
If
now.
Billy was here,
I know.
well, if Billy was here, he'd
Billy's
say,
not, Billy's like,
Yeah.
like, hey, we gotta share and raise hand. But like, we're just having a talk. I don't fucking care.
I
You
know.
gotta started reading
when,
it.
when you're
I know.
speaking and you're going, this guy pissed me off.
Yeah.
In the moment, you can learn to shift that and goes, you allowed yourself to react because no one can piss you off without your permission.
Yeah, and usually I literally, this dude Didier who's about to get here, I don't want to say we're beefing, but like we're going through some stuff, right? He said some shit to me, and it pissed me off. I like to speak specifically. I've had issues with Rudy and Wickham, and last night we had, me and this one like to talk a lot of shit, me and Jordan over here. We're shit talkers, right? But like, I like that because you're right. Like when I'm blessing everything and when my heart's filled with love, like I don't know, it doesn't need to affect me. But when it's true and someone says some shit, it affects me. If it affects me, if it's a red flag, if it's like, if I react more so or with more intensity than I should, that's when I need to look at like maybe like what he said, like he's probably right.
That's a
Like,
very
I
astute.
am not present when he's here.
That's a very wise. I agree with you.
So what we do here is I don't know. It's just
Actually,
we're
like,
letting our lives be an example to other people who follow me and us about we get to go through drama with their friends and we sort of show it online and stuff to see how we get through it so that like so everyone here like knows DBA and he's cool with it. So tonight we're gonna do a podcast and we're gonna talk about what he said and what I said. And you've heard the podcast. Like I get super transparent about like specific things in my life and people in my life and how we work through our differences and problems. But it always comes down to like humility and love, you know. Sorry, Gus. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was scrolling through my Instagram obviously, and there was a quote. It was like someone screenshotted a text and said, "Who
Let the
hurt
people
you?"
know your name.
Gus,
Hey.
who hurt you? My own expectations.
Say it again.
Who
love
hurt
that.
you? Question mark. And the person replied, "My own expectations."
Yeah, because it's when you expect nothing or want nothing from anyone, you're pretty free.
Are you gonna start
Who
reading
is this
that?
guy, bro?
I mean, it's like giving with an expectation.
Yeah.
We're
If
just
you
gonna
give with
go
an
in.
expectation, it's certainly
No
when you-
recap?
No, we should
If
do a
you're-
recap.
if you're giving
but
just
I
a
mean,
gift-
this kind of
That's
is a
like
good
the key
recap
to
because
life.
it's like
Don't live with any expectations. Period.
So
This almost is a recap in and of itself because we're talking about how when we apply this shit, we don't get hurt, and then we don't need to hurt others, and we can live. You know what would
Happily
be
and usefully
cool?
whole.
Maybe would you mind kind of giving us a recap?
Yeah, sure.
What was the lot? Do you remember like what Corey's just the shit. I
Yeah.
feel like he doesn't talk enough. But yeah, I think if anybody, I don't really think that I should or need to be the one giving a recap. So if anyone has anything they want to add to what we read last week before we start on the new shit, and I think we could go as far back as we want.
If we recap this paragraph, we'd have to go back to the paragraph prior.
Well, no, we're just gonna recap. Like Corey, just what did you get from
What
last
page?
week?
Yeah,
48.
basically the main thing he was interpreting from the Sermon on the Mount was about salt, and
Salt of the earth.
that had to do with, like there's just some historical context for what salt was like super valuable over time. That's why we use something like that. It's a preserver of life, like you can say beef jerky or some kind of, they would put salt on meat and things, and it would preserve and lengthen the length of something's life. So if you're salt and you have this value of preserving life, but also I think it's really referring to the savor. So it's making something palatable.
So what is the actual saying?
what that did he from the center.
Yeah.
Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is there thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and be trodden underfoot.
So that's what we read last week. And when they're talking about, they're saying you can lose your savor. You want to be the salt of the earth,
Right.
but when you fucking act,
I lost my
Place
salt
it.
last week.
he almost beat the shit out of this kid, or he wanted to, and that was acting out of love. And then now you're losing your savor.
Yeah, when he's talking about lose, like how can salt lose its savor? It's like when it's not pure salt, so it's not effective anymore. So it's a matter of purity of what you are and what you're doing.
So these principles
Right. If you're
help
leading
us
this-
be as effective as possible to everyone around us. And
Right.
they give us the ability to like add to the harmony and and actually our lives will become more
Salty.
salty, better. Yeah.
Savory.
They'll be more savory and flavorful, and we'll feel more fulfilled.
Right,
I feel
yeah.
so incredibly fulfilled.
Yeah, it's like a pleasing experience. Like food that's bland, that's that's no good. But,
Yeah.
but it's like spiritual salt, so it makes your spiritual life
Yeah.
pleasing.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
gives you,
So
like real pleasure.
yeah, that's what we read last week.
Right.
How to be salty. It's weird because nowadays salty is like a
Right, it's like the
you're
opposite.
fucking. Why are you acting salty? Like it, but the way they're talking about it, it's a good thing. But now it's like you're being a fucking bitch or whatever, you know?
Salty.
Salt of the earth.
Salty
Salty.
dog.
Salty beards. Okay, so
And then we got into the light of
what?
Salty beers because of surf.
No, I know, but he's also kind of salty.
Here we go.
So is it about like not diluting yourself or diluting your spirituality? Like that's what I think of when I think of salt is how like water.
It talks about being a light of the world and a salt of the earth, which is an attraction to those that may not be living that way of life. So if you're living that way of life, it's an attraction situation.
Attraction, not promotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well,
What up?
yeah. How crazy is that? He's a blessing. Talking about salt and. All right, so 48.
Bottom paragraph.
Then you are worthy to be called the salt of the earth. That's the last thing we read.
we actually
No, we read the.
Oh, we read the next one
Yeah.
too. Okay. So, a light of the world, in fact, startling and wonderful as they may sound. That's the last thing we read.
Yeah.
So they're saying how you will be a blessing, you will be a light of the world, if you
Make your demonstration.
if you truly live this life, then it does not in the least matter what your present circumstances may be. Sorry, I'm just going to read this.
Go ahead, brother.
Or what difficulties you may have to struggle against you. Again, it doesn't matter what your circumstances are or what difficulties you have to struggle against, you will triumph over them all. Oh, and that's when fucking Tim jumped in and said, wait a second, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What if you're in fucking prison or like, you know,
He just didn't like how it was so.
no, but it's like, I get what he was saying. He was basically saying like, no, like, if you act with love and if you do all this shit, like, you still can get fucked in life.
Well, that's when we started talking about,
But-
Krista Murdy? Was it
But being fucked,
Ramdas?
yeah, but being fucked in life is like all a matter of perception. And I think that when we're talking about spiritual, godlike concepts and principles, that stuff's like infinite. Like, my finite mind can't understand how someone who gets raped all day, every day, how that could possibly be a part of God's plan. Like, I don't know. That's really not for me to figure out. I only need to look at how I can apply this. And I've found that for me, in my life, when I'm applying this shit, everything's always better. So whatever you're struggling with, you will triumph over all that shit. You will make your demonstration, and not only will you make your own demonstration in the quickest possible time, but you will be, and in a very positive and literal sense, of a healing and illuminating influence on all around you, and a blessing to the whole human race. You will be a blessing to men and women in remote places and times, and men and women whom you have never heard and whom you will never hear of you. A light of the world, in fact, startling and wonderful as that may sound. And it's really cool because we have people watching and listening that I've never seen in my life. I probably don't even know they're. And then they could go and like tell someone that they know, a family member of theirs, and then all of a sudden that gets to someone else, and I don't even. So if we keep doing this stuff, it's like, this is cool. We can maybe like help change the world like a little bit. That's pretty profound, you know? And it's inspiring me and like motivating me in a way I've never been inspired or motivated before in my life. So now we'll read this other paragraph.
I'd say it's like the same thing as being in the program and sponsoring or speaking or being of service. You never know who that person's going to go help that next person and help that next person. Yeah.
Actually, will you just read this one?
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to read it. So we go this way, right? I don't know.
Yeah, we could go that way.
I don't know
No,
where
okay.
we left off because I probably wasn't the one who was supposed to.
I
read.
read
It
for
doesn't
like
matter.
2 weeks in a
We
row.
do it.
I think it was this on page 49. Thank God that I'm coming.
No, I'm saying I don't know who the last person to read
It was me.
Oh, so
Do you want me to read?
you should have
State of your
started.
soul.
Second paragraph?
So that's
Bottom
we just
paragraph
finished
on
the recap.
48.
Now we're
State of
reading.
your
Welcome
soul.
to the meeting.
All right. The state of your soul is always expressed in your outer conditions and in the intangible influence which you radiate at large. There is a cosmic law that nothing can permanently deny its own nature. Emerson said, "What you are shouts so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." In the Bible, the city always stands for consciousness, and the hill or mountain always means prayer or spiritual activity. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. The soul that is built upon prayer cannot be hidden. It shines out brightly through the life that it lives. It speaks for itself, but in utter silence, and does much of its best work unconsciously. Its mere presence heals and blesses all around it without special effort. Should I keep going, or?
So you're gonna just recap that, or tell us how you can apply that in your life, or whatever you want to share about. We can share. You can share, and then anyone can share about
Yeah.
anything they want to share about.
So-
Yeah, we just have to make sure like to raise hands and
Yeah, let's
time it.
Yeah,
Right.
Gus, you're gonna have to
5
be
minutes.
our
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah, just give me a heads up or whatever. So, for me, the soul that is built upon prayer cannot be hidden. In other words,
what?
the soul that is built upon prayer cannot be hidden. You see, these are like, I think he's talking about metaphysical laws, spiritual principles, spiritual truths that really, don't have a direct correlation in the material world. In other words, the soul that is built upon prayer cannot be hidden. That's what he says. But see, if the soul's not built in the material world, like I could be doing all kinds of nefarious, fucked up shit in my life, but I could hide it by putting, by wearing faces and masks and, pretend like I'm a good guy, and everybody would be like, oh, he's such a good guy, because really what I am is I'm an ass-kissing people pleaser to disguise the fact that I really want something from you, so I'm shooting angles, but I could keep that hidden in the material world. But like Emerson said, who you are speaks so loudly I can't hear what you say. That's where he's saying, you know, the true nature of who we are cannot be hidden. Because, you know, we only perceive like this much of what we perceive with 5 sense reality. Most of what we perceive, we're animals, and we're also like perfect receptors. And on a spiritual level, especially if we're spiritually attuned, especially if we are the soul that's built on prayer, then suddenly this little thing like intuition comes in. And then you can just sort of feel like, yeah, there's something about that guy, you know, that I'm just kind of sketchy, you know. Even though he appears materially to be like, you know, just the nicest fellow in the world. So, you know, there's the innate God-given bullshit detector, you know, and that's tied into intuition. That can only come to a soul that is built upon prayer, because when it's built upon ego and it's built upon, you know, materialism and, you know, atheism or agnosticism or whatever, then, you know, those perceptions are kind of shut off. And all I've got to go with is my wonderful mind, you know. But see, I don't know about anybody else, but, you know, I'm an alcoholic. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I've been sober for a while. And my mind is the first motherfucker I don't trust, because my mind thought me into some really gnarly situations. I mean, life-threatening shit. It's only by the grace of God that I'm alive. And I had to experience, you know, that horrible humiliation to, you know, to be willing to even consider that there is a power greater than human power that can restore me to sanity. But before I could even come to that concept, I had to really admit to my innermost self that I am functionally insane. Because how could I not be insane if I'm doing insane shit and making insane decisions and doing, you know, life-threatening shit to myself and those around me? So, you know, the mind is like, it's not a place I want to live in unless it is connected to a soul that is built upon prayer. You know, then the mind suddenly becomes an instrument in God's hands and can do all kinds of fucking incredible shit. But, you know, by my own unaided willpower, you know, I've got the Midas touch in reverse. Everything I touch turns to shit. You know, and that's been proven, you know, to myself. And, you know, that's kind of like, it's interesting because, you know, this is not an AA meeting, but, you know, a lot of us are in AA. And it's interesting because, you know, like we were saying before, like Big Paul was saying, this book, the Sermon on the Mount, was kind of the precursor to Alcoholics Anonymous. Bill Wilson and all those guys that founded Alcoholics Anonymous studied this book for years and had meetings just like this, Sermon on the Mount meetings, where they studied metaphysical law as a treatment for their condition. You know, their condition was alcoholism, but it could be any kind of neurotic, fucked up, you know, dysfunctional situation, because these laws apply equally to anything and everything in God's creation. So, you know, this is just pure truth. You know, it shines brightly through the life that it lives. It speaks for itself, but in utter silence. So, you know, what it's saying is that, like the last paragraph we read last week, is if you truly live this life, which means turning your will and your life over in the care of God as you understand Him from a relationship that you built in prayer, then you don't even have to say anything. What you are speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you say. So if what you are is a soul built upon prayer, that speaks loudly. You don't have to go, you know, stand on a street corner and pound a drum or, you know, hit anybody over the head with.
See the humility.
You know, you live connected to a greater power, and that shines through you, and you become like a channel of God's will, and through that, you know, you can affect changes that you'll never even be able to begin to figure out with this puny mind, you know, because you become a salt of the earth, you become a light of the world, and that's what we're striving for here, striving, not trying. It's what we're doing, right? And, you know, thank God for that. You know, my deal is, I just thank God all day long. That I've trained myself to do that because I'm not a grateful guy by nature. You know, I'm a self-centered SOB by nature. So I had to, you know, really train myself, and I continue to need to train myself, because if I let go of that rubber band, it snaps back into default mode, which is fuck you, hooray for me, and where's mine, you know? So, you know, this is stuff that must be applied. You know, I've been applying it for a while now, and, you know, the results are good, and I highly recommend it. Thanks.
Alcoholic.
Mic drop right here.
I got two simple, just to keep it very simple, phrases that one my sponsor gifted to me is that he says, if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything.
Oh.
You can tell when a person's based on spiritual, on a spiritual way of life. If they stand for nothing, they'll fall for anything. Another one is, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. We're gonna see right through it. We'll see right through the bullshit, because we've been there before. And especially if we're trying to live a spiritual way of life and we see right through your bullshit, we're gonna cut that right down. It's gonna be self-evident. It's gonna be a spiritual axiom, like it says in the 12 and 12. Yeah, anytime we're disturbed, that it's our fault, you know, we'll see it.
It sort of reminded me of like
What's your
monks who
Who are
take
you?
like a vow of silence. I'm Rudy. I'm an alcoholic.
Are you?
Yes.
Rudy.
All right,
Yes.
Yeah, Rudy.
I was about to split the room in half, right around here.
Yeah.
Hey, got it. I'm proud of that. I think it's cool that we have people here that don't identify as alcoholics, but they just identify as human. The human condition is.
But I just was thinking about like nuns and monks that take a vow of silence, and when they do that, they don't say anything for years and years and years on end, but their spirituality speaks for them. And it's kind of the opposite of what we have over here in like Western culture, because it's just, we're always talking and always trying to justify our shitty decisions, whereas like those people live completely surrounded by spirituality. And I mean, it seems when he was talking about the percentages of what your gift giving is and what your when you sin, they have found a way to like switch the table and give all the time instead of take like we do in Western culture. You know? That's why it's so hard for us to meditate. That's why it was so hard for us to shut up for 4 minutes, is because we're so used to getting validation verbally.
Yeah.
That's what made me think.
Thanks, Rudy.
Thanks, Rudy.
We're great to have you here.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Pete. I'm Pete, and I'm a Sicilian.
That's bad enough.
So, frequency, the study of frequency, the frequency that you omit will be returned to you. So, if you've deceived people, and you're in business, or you're doing any practice with personal relationships, you don't trust because you know you have running games on people. So if someone comes at you clear and is perfectly honest, you create trust, and it's a self-perpetuating, fulfillment, because that's what you're putting out. So you still have to go back in. And when Jonathan was talking about your life or spirit based upon prayer, if you practice a diligent, systematic prayer, and learn the way to pray that's effective, what will happen is what comes out of your soul is honesty and your own thing. You are correct. You have to stop before you say anything. You have to examine your own conscience and say, all right, is there any truth in that? Is there any truth in it in the present? And if there's no truth in it in the present, and you still in the present you feel it, go back into the past. Have I ever behaved like that person said? If I go, yeah, 8 years ago I did all these things, the same. That's why I'm reacting. So I have to go back into where that spot was, and I have to do some work in healing and forgiving the whoever was present, the other person, and myself, because there's a spiritual line of forgiving everyone, every being that harmed you throughout the ages of all the ages of your soul's existence, and then asking for forgiveness for all beings that you harmed throughout the ages of your soul's existence. And when you start, I found when I start there that we're all imperfect and we're all flawed. So in acknowledging our humanity, our humanness, is when we can come to humility, because nobody is perfect. And arrogance and avarice holds you back from relationships with yourself and other beings. And we must all understand that all beings have a human struggle. So when someone gets angry or is vile and saying things to you, you have to understand that compassion must come in, because that being is suffering. And what he's saying is not about you. It's about him. It has nothing to do with you. And so what other people, say or think about you is none of your business. Your only obligation to yourself is to keep yourself virtuous, honorable, loyal, compassionate, loving, forgiving. And when you give all of those virtudes out without expectation, they come back. There's a richness in being of service to people when no one's watching. When nobody's watching, you just do it for the sake of doing it. And I believe the benefits to one's heart, in my experience, is plenty. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sure.
Corey?
Corey.
I just like this passage. What you are, shout so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. This was never so clear to me as when I had kids. And they get to a certain age where you tell them what to do, and they do something else, like, what? And then it looks exactly like something that you do. It's like, you don't always do what you say, but they always do what you do. And so it just makes you aware that when somebody's watching you, especially my kids are so, you're so close with them, and I spend all day at work, and then I come home and I don't have the energy left to put up a face or to be fake or whatever. Not that I'm not everything it is, but they see who I really am. I'm at home, so they know me for real, and they know my soul, right? So just being aware of that makes me want to pay attention to what I'm radiating, right? And it says nothing can permanently deny its own nature. So, you can temporarily do that, right? You put up an act, but that takes work, and eventually you're going to be exhausted. You're going to either lose track of your story, or lies, or whatever they are, and you're going to become exhausted with the work that it takes to do that, and it's going to break down somewhere. So you have to do the work on your own, like you said, nobody's watching, because that's when it really changes you, because it's not for a game outside of just that. Right? So you have to do it when nobody's watching, so that when somebody is watching, it doesn't take any effort to really, because that's what you are.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Be who they are. So if your duty is to go out in your service is to teach your brothers and sisters, and you make the effort, very kindly, that flows, and they don't accept it. It is not your job to grab them and say, no, you have to listen, and force them into something. Every human being deserves your respect to be able to wake up at their own time and their own space. So, and if somebody, I went back and thought about this, because 15 years ago, though very sensitive in a lot of areas of consciousness, I was asleep. Now, if someone would have criticized me and said, you're stupid, you're this, you don't understand these things, that would be like that would have, you know, well, it would have engaged me in,
Them's fighting words.
and combative, and I would have combated that. And if someone just says, oh, no problem, you know, that's great, I bless you, you grow at your own pace. Maybe one day I just think about it, and one day you might remember what I'm saying. I leave. That's a very powerful thing to allow people their space, because many relationships that I've had, and you're trying to impose your wisdom or knowledge on somebody that they don't want to listen. And if they don't want to listen, stop, because it's when someone asks you and seeks. The seekers, all of us, any being that asks somebody for help, when you truly ask in earnest, most people open up their arms. But if you force anything upon someone, their first reaction is to move away. So just be kind of their space, and give them the allowance, because know that sometime or not, they will come to the next level. Could take them a week, 10 years, 50 years, or maybe in this lifetime they won't learn it. But it's not any of our jobs to force anybody to do anything. But the second part of this is, it's just they always say that, I hate the cliche, be the change you want to be. That's a little cliche for me, but for me, it's just if you're practicing kindness, passion, ingenuity, patience, love, kindness, and you're being of service, and that's who you're being. That's all you need to do. And again, you don't have to apologize for who you are. You don't have to say, oh, but I did this, I made these 10 brilliant art pieces and sold 80 billion albums, and I got a great house. You don't need to say that, because if you do, you're not secure. You have to go back and say, why am I not comfortable with myself? Because if someone doesn't accept me who I am, then that person is the wrong person. That business is the wrong business. And this is something that I had struggled with for a long time. You just have to let it go. If you be direct, if you want to do, I want to start a business with you, I want to go out with you. Straightforward. If they say yes, no. If they say no, great. If they say yes, and they choose to see who you are, but if they can't see a possibility, why do you want to be with that frequency that can't see a possibility? You shouldn't have to sell yourself, to anybody or anything. Now, and it says they will, if they see your passion and your magnetism through the light that shines you, they'll be begging you to give them the wonderful thing that you have, because you can't bottle integrity, you can't bottle honesty, you can't bottle forthrightness, and you can't bottle kindness, patience, compassion, and nurturing. All of these are more valuable than any amount of money in the world, because when I had nothing to when I made money, I feel no different. Your happiness is not revolved around a dollar bill. There's no wealth in the material. And the interesting thing, the Christ truth, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. So when there are people in this world that people look up to, in the illusion, they look up to people with big money. Oh, he's got this, he's got that, he did this, he did that. Oh, the whole facade of the illusion of fame, and I can't say how many alcoholics and suicides and garbage that has happened around that, because it's fleeting, because it comes to you, it's false. Two people have energy. I want to be in this movie, and then he wants to get laid. So it's a match made in heaven, that frequency, and the guy doesn't give a shit about her spiritually, and it's like a business deal. But if it doesn't work out, she thinks she's been slighted, but she sold her soul for a material thing, and he didn't want anything. His position is not spiritual at all, so that never works. I think lastly, to do this is to make your soul truly the city upon the hill that cannot be hidden, because it is the golden city, the city of God. That is to let your light shine to the glorifying of your Father which is in heaven. like Jonathan said, when you're praying and your frequency is in your higher self, which is a divine frequency, because there is no pain, there is no strife, there is no avarice. In love, there's only healing, there's only light. Nothing can harm you when you're in that frequency, and in the divine frequency. And that the statement that people are afraid to live in their magnificence is true, because when you get up there, it's like, oh, do I deserve this? And then you go back, oh, it couldn't be me. It's like live into your spiritual power and accept who you are. It's like we're the sun, the moon, and the stars. And that's who you are. And your plane of existence on this planet can be dimensionally on a celestial plane at the same time. And the more you get rid of the illusion and you tap into that beam of spirit that opens up and takes the amnesia away to who you truly are, and you awaken to that fact, it's a very humbling experience. To know that all souls are created equal on this planet, and what someone has or someone does has no effect on the wise man. This entire world, in this entire world that is built upon and programmed into us since we're kids about success. What is the success? The success they program into you is a dollar bill. Oh, I'm going to have this house, and I have the fence and cars and kids and house over there, and lots of money, fame and fortune. That's what they program into you. But they don't program into you, or they don't put anything spiritual in front of you for the most part in the Western world. They don't give you the gift of really what's most important, which is virtue, kindness, consideration, forgiveness, and love. And then the planet is pulled apart because it appears like other forces want to do things, to control, and it has certainly turned the world upside down for a reset that is powerful. Because if we don't start recognizing that our ecosystem, our plants and 2/3 of our species have been extincted in the last 50 years, and the plants and animals and bees and mammals and insects and trees are being extincted, and our rainforest is getting polluted so that the flying rivers won't circulate. If we don't start waking up and living a different way and getting connected with our roots, which is the earth and nature, it's not a good prognosis for the next 100 years on the planet for our future generations to survive. So what this pandemic is a divine order of the planet saying, you cannot act like this anymore. And it's like, old saying, I would rather, fight on my feet than live on my knees. And we all have to get connected and understand that the unification of the consciousness, that must happen. So we stand for it, because the consciousness of all these public servants that we elect directly reflects the consciousness of the people who elected them. So if we want a change, we have to do it within ourselves. So the frequency of the people that we want to put in places that to protect us will be the same, and you could create an interdependent society where you don't need health care, because if someone's sick, somebody will take care of you, and nobody will go without a roof over their head, because there's certainly plenty of money to have a roof. There's no reason to have all this famine and garbage all over the world. We certainly have enough money in this world and enough resources to take care of people. So that's it.
Thank you.
I got a simple one from a hood perspective. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in Pacoima, I had an uncle that was a deacon in the church. My grandmother was a church lady. My aunt was all into the church. They all tried to cram religion down my throat. Took me to church when I was young, and nothing got through to me. Nothing got through to me until I was beaten into submission through drugging and drinking. And I saw a man that was being an example of the program that I wanted to get a little bit of light from. Until then, I wasn't listening to anything. So like he goes for the throat when he says never try to force other people to accept spiritual truth. Instead, see to it that they are so favorably impressed by your own life and conduct and the peace and joy that radiate from you that they will come running to you of their own accord. Now, when I talked to my uncle, to my aunt, if my grandmother was still here, she saw me find God before she left. She died when I was about 2 years sober. I blow their mind with some of the things I say now. From the Bible, from these books, and from my example of living and just being of service. It blows their mind because of the man I used to be when I was out there doing dirt. It just, the example that I'm radiating toward them is just light. Where I used to be this taker. All I want to do is give now. So this is true. All we, and like it says in the previous paragraph, 2 paragraphs before, all we have is our own demonstration. All we can do is demonstrate where we're at, you know? That's it.
Oh, brother.
All simple.
Yeah. I just want to say what you.
Who are you?
I'm Pat. And I've
Pete.
never met this man in my life. I don't know this guy. Like, how is he here?
What do
No,
you mean?
I know. I'm just saying. I'm saying that like, this is how it works.
Yeah, man.
It's so amazing because I don't know. This is amazing. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, where is you? I love what you said. And,
Yeah.
like, I believe the same. I think it's true. Like, I feel like we almost. I feel sort of an obligation almost to try to say what you so eloquently said. I can't say it as well as you did, but something's off, you know, about everything. I think, and Paul, because I'm just, you know, we're gonna post what you said on the internet. Are you cool with that?
Yes, sure.
Because people need to hear that.
Yeah.
And that's the shit that needs to be going viral. Not some chick doing a dance with big tits. I mean, that's cool too. I'm not mad at that either. But like, I feel like this is what we, and Paul was seeing me like just posting stuff or whatever. And then he's like, yo, what up? And then now he's here. And then John's here. Now you're here. And everyone's here. It's like, we're all just, so I don't know. I've been kind of, yeah, it's like
It's the light of the world. It's an attraction.
yeah. I'm just really
I try to bring the heat.
I'm grateful you're here,
Yeah, man.
and I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful everyone's here, and I think we're all being attracted to this thing, you know? And I also, like, me and D-Day were having a conversation, like, last week about, like, finding that balance, you know? Because, like, there is a difference between, like, being an attractive force and then, like, constantly trying to promote to the point where it's affecting my relationships in my life. So I love that we also have relationships in here where we can help each other grow and like find that balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
You know, like I love it. I'm just like overwhelmed with like gratitude and inspiration, and like I just can't believe that this was God's plan for me, you know, and it wasn't to be on some stage having like hot chicks like sign autographs and hopefully go back to the hotel room with them. Because that was like not as cool as I thought it was. Because I had a little bit of that too for a while, and that was like,
Yeah, man.
I was the only sober one in the club, and it was just like kind of weird, and like it was fun and it was cool, and I love art and I love creating art. But I just feel like this is the art I want to create now, and I do feel like the way you presented that was like artistic and eloquent, and you have a way with words, and so does Jonathan, and like I think everyone has their own unique voice, and I'm just excited to see like where all this is gonna go, you know, and I'm just grateful to have you guys here. You know?
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
man.
I just want to jump in because, you know, yeah, everything everybody says in here, you know, it's said in the spirit of prayerfulness and truth and integrity. You know, everything that gets said in here, it's not necessarily, you know, it's not like, oh, you know, I'm so smart and he talks so good and, you know, this and that. You know, no, because they're, you know, I really, really feel the presence of like what some people might call the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. You know, I feel that, you know, that's the thing that Jesus said, supposedly. You know, he said, when two or more of you are united in my name, and name, Emmett Fox explains this, that name in the metaphysical terms means nature. It's not name like, you know, Patrick, Joe, Jonathan, Paul, whatever. You know, it's the nature. So what Jesus was saying, from my understanding, is that when two or more of you are united in my nature is what? My nature is honesty, integrity, calling on the divine forces, the power of God, whatever. When people united in the nature of the Holy Spirit, shit happens that's way beyond, you know, that transcends what, you know, I could just sit jerking off in my room, you know, and manifest somehow, you know. This is, you know, big shit happens, you know, like miraculous, crazy shit happens, you know, and that's what's going on right here, right now, with all these souls, okay, these souls,
Kabokos.
souls manifested in prayer, connected to prayer, through prayer, to this force that manifests through us. And then we all become lights, and we can just light each other up, and it's like, whoa, you know, this is like, it's
trippy.
It's
Feeding off
very
each other.
I'm
trippy.
like on a
It's very
acid
trippy.
trip or something.
No,
It's all
It's
it's
weird,
vibrational.
young lady wants to speak.
It reminds me of almost like the Last Supper in a way, because I was exposed to a lot of organized religion growing up, and I didn't take that much away from the church. It was sort of berated into me that, like, if you do something wrong,
You're gonna burn in
pray.
hell.
It's like you're gonna burn in hell if you don't pray and repent about it and cry about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And this is such a different type of spirituality, and it reminds me of like what it was meant to be at the beginning, where it's just a group of sinners getting together to talk about
Getting
what
better.
they struggle with their humanity and trying to find their true spirituality, leading by example, and then having people add on to them. It's cool.
Good stuff.
Right on. Thank you. Thanks, Rudy.
By the way, sin, the word sin,
Yeah,
it's actually an archery term,
yeah,
and it's like when you miss.
yeah.
You miss the fucking target,
Yeah.
you have sinned.
Yeah. You missed the mark.
Missing
Yeah.
the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a better word for it. A
Right?
miss. I'm sorry that I missed.
I missed. I fucked up. Next time I'll do better.
Yeah.
Next.
Anything from the
I'll get close to that.
people
I
out
want to
there?
say something. I think all of us as humans. It's Gus.
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 I think as humans we're all attracted to light and positivity. I just think for like a lot of us it takes the darkness for us to want to come after light, like a moth to a flame. Like a moth lives to go to the light, you know, to a light source of light. And I think that once your vibration is wanting, even like trying to feel or be positive or go towards the light, like it changes your whole, like you said, your vibration, your energy. But I think for a lot of us, it takes us seeing the darkness. You know, a lot of people go through their life very neutral, and I think experiencing.
Strange people.
That's cool too. Yeah.
Right?
It's not.
Everyone has their path.
I don't quite understand
Yeah,
those
yeah.
people.
I don't either.
I'm one of them.
But
Dream on, man.
Sometimes we gotta burn the world down and build it back up again.
yeah, no, it's not. I mean, yeah, that's true. But for me, it's not even about that. It's more of like, do you want to live in the darkness or do you want to live in the light? You know, so you have to make a choice.
Man can't serve two masters.
There's an
Can't
interesting,
do both.
there's an interesting analogy. If you had a brilliant room full of bright light, and you put one piece of blackness in there, the light would drown out the blackness. If you get a room filled with blackness and you light one candle, it will illuminate the room. So, always good to accept the darkness because it is duality. Light and dark are dual, same source. They come from the same source, and we are all made of that. So it's a question to study the darkness, not be consumed by it, and learn how to illuminate the darkness. Because there's a lot of wisdom in darkness as well. So and human beings are ruled. A lot of them are controlled by fear, which is a based emotion. So look at the pandemic. Fear, 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 fear. That's all you hear is fear. Oh my God, I might come out, I get a droplet on me. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Do this, don't do that. It aerosolizes. No, it doesn't. It doesn't do this. And pretty soon, all you have is chaos and confusion without any proper data. But then you have people walking around and trying to tell other human beings or take away your own personal, God-given sovereignty, where you should be able to walk by yourself or with your girl by yourself without wearing anything if you're healthy, and you can't give anything to anybody when you're healthy. And yet, when you create paranoia and fear, that's how people are controlled. Now, the opposite of fear is love, and then on this earth we have science that is not being honored, and I believe that it's coming time where there's so many scientists in the world that are saying that there is a deadly strain that hits people's genetic sequencing of this, but according to all the science that I've read, it just from that particular strain of COVID they're talking about, the death rate I think is 0.02, and the deaths from the flu is 1%, and that's solely. So I don't know. There's 394 scientists that have come out and said that there was never a reason to lock anybody down, and most people get their information sourced from CNN or a news channel, which instead of going to read peer reviews. And then the common sense is that why is it that that a lot of these people, the doctors that come on social media or the news that have high accreditations, are censored, and they say, oh, this is partly false, and they're taking it off. Never in the history of the country have I seen anybody censor someone. You have freedom of speech and freedom of expression. If you say something and I don't think it's right, I might say, hey, that's bullshit, and I'll go research it, and you may be wrong. But to censor somebody because they're saying something, I think this is another progression to teach people to use their brains. Because if you're saying that a virus doesn't live in a liquor store, that's an essential business, and your dad's hardware store is not, and the virus can live there, and it can't live in Costco and a supermarket, and then you have to wear a mask that you buy at the store that says it doesn't affect help against the coronavirus. All these things that are just common sense that you look at, they don't make sense. So people need to exercise their brain and do research. And the last thing I'm going to say about that is the guy that came up with that I've read a lot of the peer-reviewed studies that he sent was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has litigated against all these vaccination companies that have never done a double-blind placebo-tested study in the United States ever. The qualifications for vaccinations in Europe are much, much, much stricter. So why would someone take something that's been unproven, untested, and unsafe? And so human beings need to think about that, because if you have a mutating strain, what is a vaccination going to do? It keeps mutating. This makes no scientific sense to me. And we all have brains, and the reason I'm saying this now is because I just want to encourage everyone to do their homework on anything. The only thing college gave me, university, was a professor said, Pete, you know why you're doing homework? Well, maybe to learn the lessons in the course. No, it's teaching you to research. It's a much bigger picture. So when you go out in life, if you buy a car, you're going to research everything about the car. If you got to get a loan, if you want to be smart about it, research the terms of the loan, how it works. The more you learn to do this, you're going to get, you'll get much better deals, and you're going to fail because when you get lazy and you're not diligent, you're going to get the contract. Oh man, they just got me for another 3%. Oh, it's another, $3,000 for this. Oh, they got me on the loan origination fee when I bought my house, or whatever the situation is. And what I think they should teach in school is tools for life, like how to do these things. How do you function in life? And I think that would be a bigger gift to teach a kid how you're going to function. There's street smart people that are much more wise than people that are academics when you're dealing with life. But the biggest takeaway I have is diligence in research. I'm not taking somebody's word for anything when it comes to science. I'm going to research it myself, and nobody should shame anybody if you have a difference of opinion. If someone's afraid, I'll say God bless you. If you want to wear your mask and you want to do your thing, and I, even in the supermarket, sometimes people are freak out. I'll wear something when I walk in, and then I pull it down below my nose so I can breathe because I don't want to deal with it. That's it.
Thanks, Jonathan. After that, I just have to say, because like everything that Pete just said, he's basically pointing out all the absurdities and all the ridiculousness and all the irrationality of the world that we live in, basically, reflected in this particular, really super insane situation. But, everything he said, basically to me, it just boils down to like, whoa, we live in a world that is not governed by critical thinking. It's not governed by humility. It's not governed by the ability to research and search with an open mind. It's all, this world is basically covered in a wave of darkness that basically goes against every spiritual principle in these books. It's like, be afraid, be very afraid. Don't listen to, your God-given bullshit detector. Listen to us, CNN, this, that, the politics, the tricksters, all this, So, what this all boils down to for me is that we are in a spiritual battlefield. Because obviously on the material plane, there's not much we can do. This world is, wholly and exclusively owned and governed by just the shittiest forces one could possibly imagine. And what is you can't pick up a gun and fight like demons because they exist on a whole other level of consciousness. They're not necessarily even material form. They can possess people in material form with fear, with disinformation, with craziness, with all kinds of nefarious shit. So the bottom line is like the only weapon that I have to guide me through this maze of deception and trickery and fuckery and just general purpose nastiness is my spiritual connection to divine forces. So that means I have to really up my game every day. I have to connect to God. I have to thank God. I have to ask God to guide me, to teach me, to show me the way. And thank God for protecting me all these years and for, protecting me from, my own fucked up karma and from my own bad decisions and everything else. At the end of the day, God is the only light, whatever you want to call it, God, great creator, divine force, whatever, is the only light in this room covered in darkness, like Pete was talking about. The room is all covered in darkness. I've got a little candle. That little candle is lit by a power far greater than myself. And with that little, hey, Billy, that little candle, I can be a light of the world because this world is desperately in need of light. This world is desperately in need of each and every one of us, flicking our bick and lighting up that little candle of consciousness so that we can walk through this valley of the shadow of death and come through it, not only unharmed, but wiser, better, more stronger, more better equipped to carry that little candle of light to the next suffering being that is, what's appears to be causing all this trouble. So that's it.
One more thing to add. What really turned me around in the research, Robert Kennedy Jr. said something because when Trump said something that hydrochloroquine was a good therapeutic, and they all discounted and put these studies out and said it was not good, and it was damaging and all these reports of death. So Kennedy Jr. comes out and says, well, they're being a little bit disingenuous because the CDC did a study with 2,200 milligrams of hydroxychloroquine, which is a lethal dose. And he said the normal dose is 200 milligrams. Why would they do a study with a lethal dose? He goes, I've been to Africa umpteen times. I've taken chloroquine many, many times. It's a therapeutic and a prophylactic, and it stops cytokine storms. 66 peer-reviewed studies support it. So I looked it up. But if the CDC is giving false information to the entire United States, at that point, I didn't trust anything they said. Done. And I just looked, and that cost about like less than $1 a tablet, as opposed to the ones that the current administration's doctors are saying that cost $600 to $700 a dose. So to me, it just nothing makes sense, and just listen to your own guidance.
All right, should we read?
Thank you, Pete.
Who's after Pete?
Where's our
That's
moderator?
inside.
What are we doing here?
We're on.
We got 10 minutes. We got 10 minutes. Yeah, let's read. Let's get a reading in.
I'm beating the shit out of this thing, dude.
Huh?
We're beating the hell out of it.
You want to read this one?
You want to go?
I don't care.
Let DD. Okay, DDA, you're up.
Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall now in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. You want me to read that whole thing? Right?
Yeah.
Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven.
That was deep.
Bless you.
I mean, you want to share?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Corey, this is Jesus talking about, what his purpose was to come, and obviously at the time there's this big religious, leaders, and they've got all these laws, every single specific thing that you do in life, they have a law for it. What you can and can't do. So it was a burden to the people of Israel at the time, right? So he's coming saying all these things that, like the Sermon on the Mount says, well, the law says this, but I say, and gets more specific with all the laws. So he's saying that they were saying that he was contradicting a lot of the law, but he's saying I didn't come to get rid of the law. I came to make it more fulfilled, but the principle of the law, not just the legality of following the law for the law's sake and tradition's sake, but for the spirit of what's behind the purpose of what the law meant. That's what he's saying, to fulfill the law. And then he goes on to say, that about breaking, if you're breaking these commandments, then obviously there's a reward and a curse for breaking or following them. But then at the end he goes, for I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. These are the religious leaders at the time, and they were considered the most righteous. And he's saying if you have to be more righteous than them. So he's basically saying that no one can fulfill the law and be totally righteous. Nobody's going to get there. So unless you're better than them, then you have no place. And he's saying it's not about the law, it's about how you think, your attitude toward all these things, and not just following law, but the reason you're following law.
Yeah, I mean, so going to, I'm DDA by the way.
DDA.
So going to Corey, it's like, I got it like this, and it's kind of what Pete's talking, Pete or Paul?
Pete.
Yeah, talking about as well. It's like, if you have God or love in your heart, which to me is one and the same, then like what they're thinking was laws at the time. He's not trying to fulfill their law, which their law is based off ego, which is based off external situations. But what I'm going to bring is the actual general law of the unity of consciousness. The general law of love as we are all one. And if you follow my laws, my commandments, this supersedes this external ego-based system that we live in with governments or anything, and goes more to the universal law of us being in humanity and being in compassion and connected to one another. So it's when he says, I'm not trying to change love, but actually to fulfill it, which means it's not just law of this surface thing, but the general consciousness of the law, is what I got from it.
There's a prayer, Jonathan. There's a prayer that I've heard, and I wish I could recite it because it's gnarly, but I can't. But it just starts out with just one phrase, and it says something like, "Woe be unto you, scribes and Pharisees, who polish meticulously the outside of the vessel, and inside it's full of rotting, ruinous, festering, disgusting shit, basically." And it's like, that's what you will see in human nature, that we want to look good on the outside, and inside, we don't bother with it. It's like we want to polish our car up and make it all shiny and look good and get, $5,000 paint job, and meanwhile, we won't put fucking oil in the tank, and it's like, this is, and in AA, which is based on these metaphysical laws, it turns the whole thing upside down, and it says it's an inside job. It's an inside job, it's everything. It starts with the inner work and then shines brightly outwardly from there. It's not about, putting on a new set of clothes when, I'm dying of pancreatic cancer or some shit, It's like, no, take care of first things first, man, and that's, this is all coming from metaphysical law, the same laws that TDA was talking about, and, that we're here to, study to improve our relationship with the world we live in, starting with the inside and shining outward from there. So that's what this, this philosophy is teaching us here.
I got something talking about what we're reading about not forcing religion or whatever. It says here on page 95, this is working with others in the big book. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. Show him how they work with you. Offer him friendship and fellowship. Tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help. If he's not interested in your solution, if he expects you to be only as a banker for his financial difficulties or a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more. That's what I was talking about. I had to get beat up. If he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read this book in the interval, which goes right back to showing him his disease, the doctor's opinion. He should not be pushed or prodded by you, his wife, or his friends. If he is to find God, the desire must come from within. That's it for me.
Aho, brother, aho.
Amen.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up. Anyone have a burning desire? Okay, good. Let's wrap it up then.
You want to ask the crowd?
Yeah, you want to ask the
Oh, yeah.
streamers?
Streamers.
How many people are on the stream?
I don't know.
Yeah, 14 people.
I think 30.
30.
31.
Just as long as, I mean, if there's one,
It's all that matters.
worth it, right?
Yep.
I'm not trying to, I don't want to worry about numbers anymore, but I will.
I don't want to.
Strive not to.
You know, one thing, I'm Pat, I'm an alcoholic. I just
Hey,
want to
Pat.
say one quick thing. I feel like, well, it's like as we're talking about this kind of stuff and the world being fucked up and all these things, it's like I kind of am thinking back to like, wait a second. It's actually like exactly the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
So like, who the fuck am I to like try to figure out what's? I mean, I don't know. All I know is like that I don't know. That's really it. So
That's what you call an open mind.
yeah.
Life is much easier when you let God take the wheel.
Yeah, I want to have an open mind, and I want to have so much of an open mind to where I'm like not really trying to like figure out. Like I'm fucking with you, Paul.
Pete.
Fucking Paulie. You say you're Sicilian, so I keep thinking Paulie.
Peter and Paul are here.
Like I'm like
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
I'm with you, but at the same time, I'm just like, you know, like I don't, maybe like this is all, like you said, like this is like something cool is happening, and Mother Nature's kind of like, yo, chill the fuck out. So I don't know, maybe all this stuff that I think is bad or lies or it's happening, so it's obviously supposed to be happening, and everything that's happening in God's world is supposed to be happening. So I'm just gonna be like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna get mad at people or whatever the fuck's going on. We're just keep trying to do this, you know, and try to maybe just keep all that out of it. Because I don't fucking know what the fuck's going on with any of that shit.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback.
Mike.
My name is Michael.
Michael?
Michael.
No, because you were saying, you know, the world's fucked up and like all this stuff, but it only seems like it now because we have, you know, information travels so fast and everyone has a voice in the world. The world's always been ending or burning. People have always been manipulating through fear and controlling the masses, and all that's always been happening.
Yep.
It's true.
At the end of the day, we live our lives for ourselves. And I was thinking about this recently, you know, put in perspective. Well, I'll get more in depth on that in a second. And I know we're wrapping up, but you know, you think about how many stars are out there in the galaxy, which is like very small and seemingly so tiny in a vast expanse. It's like, well, it's almost like it doesn't even matter. If that's the case, then really the whole point to life is just to enjoy it, right? That's kind of how I've started to live my life. And how do I do that? Well, living under that umbrella of love, right? That's how I feel better. That's how I enjoy my life on a day-to-day basis, you know, whether that's self-love. I mean, I gotta start there, otherwise I got nothing to give. And when I'm doing that, I can navigate through the bullshit a little bit easier. It's not always comfortable, but even when things aren't comfortable, I'm still good. You know, that's kind of, I used to think serenity meant, serenity's like, I'm happy all the time, or always like, you know, hashtag good vibes only, or whatever. No, serenity to me is like when shit's not going my way, quote unquote, I'm still alright. Like I can still get through it, I don't spiral through it. And I always have to make sure my head and my heart are in the right place. And if I'm doing that, I'll be alright, you know? And I'll probably be more available and able and willing to help and serve others around me, which will in turn help me enjoy my life a little bit more. And that's sort of the cycle. Yeah, exactly. So
I want to give anyone who hasn't shared an opportunity to share right now. Before we wrap up, I don't really fucking give a shit. We could go a little over if anyone wants to share about what we're talking about and stuff, you know?
Not you, but anyone else. Yeah, that's why I made a joke.
No, God.
No, I'm not sharing. I'm good.
I really want to hear from you, Joe.
Oh, I don't want to share.
Please?
Huh?
Please?
Mikey.
Wait, no, anyone else? Does anyone else want to share?
I want Mikey to share.
Well, we're going to do whoever hasn't shared.
Yeah.
You shared a lot.
Okay, so they've all shared. Who hasn't shared? Come on. Anybody?
Mikey, share.
Okay, Mikey Alcoholic.
Mikey.
Yeah, this has been a very interesting meeting. I'm very grateful to be here. That's really all I got. That's pretty good, right? No, God is, for me this week, I had an interesting week, and for what I learned this week is that if God is not, God has to be everything in my life, without a doubt. Like, listening to some of the reading and just, dealing with, not having to like not force religion or spirituality or AA on anybody. Like I have to stay true to myself and to my higher power. That's the only thing. That's the only way that I've stayed sober. God willing, I'll have 17 years in 2 weeks. Mark your calendars. October 17th. But that's but going through this journey of recovery, it's been an up and down battle with myself. It's like I can't when I work the steps. Sorry, I know this isn't an AA meeting, but when I work the steps for myself and do them and work them to the fullest, like I'm left with myself. Nothing else matters. No one else. I can't blame anybody else. So. I can't even think about some of the stuff that we read, but just
Laws.
No, just the prayer. Like that's like the prayer is what is prayer. Honestly, has saved my life. Like I haven't done it perfectly, and I haven't done it like A, B, and C has told me to do it, but I have found a connection with a higher power. That I believe has guided my life and has continued to guide my life if I am receptive to that. So, it's Monday and it's, the beginning of the week, and this always charges me up, being around my family, this is my friends and family, like this is the shit right here. This is where I belong. This is where I need to be. And it's amazing to see the people that are joining us online. But for myself, moving forward, I have to be that light on the hill, because somebody told me the truth a long time ago, and I have to freely give that back. So, God is good. If I get rid of self and get rid of ego, and get rid of self-pity, all the bullshit that comes with this society and this world, I have to divorce that shit. Like, goodbye, good riddance, and try to walk in the spirit. Sober, like I already tried getting sober on me personally, and I know this isn't AA, but you're referring to sobriety, correct?
Well, I mean, I just hear a lot of God. What if you don't believe in God?
Well, then you better find you better fucking keep fucking your life up, because if you fuck your life up good enough, you will find a God. That's what I believe.
Carl Jung said it really well. He said, God enters through the wound. So keep hurting yourself.
Yeah. But also God is a word we use to describe something we can't really explain.
Right.
It's just not me.
Right, but that's a perfect example for people who are asking this question or don't, like, this is God to me.
Yeah.
Like, all of you guys that are here that are sharing this experience, a group of drunks, but also people. Right, no, I know, but can I finish, or do you want to share? Is the mic on? Here, Pat, is this on? No, but yeah, group of drunks, but all of this. He said it, if 2 or 3 are gathered, God is in the presence of us right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're saying God is, but what if you don't believe in God?
Go ahead. Someone else answer the question.
Oh, okay. So hold on. We got Jordan, who hasn't shared. He's gonna go first. Cool. And then we got Rudy, and then we got Mike. Cool.
I personally.
We'll go all
I
night.
personally
You gotta leave.
believe
You
in
just
a
leave.
loving God of my own understanding.
Sorry, what was that?
I personally believe in a loving God of my own understanding.
Yeah.
I don't believe in God or Jesus or I don't put names on that. For me, it doesn't work like that. I understand God as I understand it. And if you don't see it that way, well, you see it your own way.
Yeah. Thanks for your question.
No force
Billy, 'cause
feeding
there's a
religion.
lot of people. I had a real hard time with that, and I think it's important to talk about. Rudy, and then Mike,
So,
and then whoever else, if you want to keep going.
like ego-wise, destruction of the ego, speaking from the point of like, do you need a higher power or a religion to put your life into the hands of that other thing? I think that I agree with Jonathan in the sense that I'm not willing to define or identify specifically what's larger than myself, but you have to recognize sometimes, most of the time, everything is out of your control, and that we only have an illusion of control. So it's the destruction of the ego and the ability to stop self-deifying yourself and realizing that I am a human, and the destruction of your own ego and self-deification and being like, okay, well, I'm small. So if I'm small, then even the 12 steps can be bigger than you, you know?
Oh yeah.
And just getting a sense of routine and doing something outside of the norm of using, like when I detoxed off of alcohol for 6 days, I just started thinking properly as opposed to, you know, it's not like I didn't want to drink anymore and that I didn't want to use, but I started realizing, oh shit, it's hard to live sober because we use weed and alcohol and cigarettes, caffeine, whatever the fuck you want to get into a mind-altering state. And then once you're not altered anymore, you start to be like, I'm very small.
Yeah.
And that was very humbling to me. And it made me realize that there had to be something larger than myself if I stopped deifying myself.
I like that answer.
But wait, we got Mike,
Yeah, my name's
and then Gus, and then maybe
Billy.
Billy, if that's what was just happening.
I'm really glad you asked that question because I've been like sitting here. I get a little hesitant to jump in at this meeting sometimes because I do take a very atheistic approach to my spirituality. I have, I guess you'd say, a higher power, sure, because I'm not in control, like you were just saying. I give that up completely. The only thing I can control, I can manage at times, is the way I act and what I do with life. That's how it's presented to me. But it was a huge journey because not too long ago, I saw God in everything. It just, something for me, it never sat right. And I wanted to be true to myself and what I really felt. I just don't believe in any sort of supernatural God, basically, right? But I live by all of the exact same principles as if I was living by God's principles. The ones we were just talking about. Honesty, integrity, love, compassion, all of those things. If there is something bigger, I think it's doing fine without me believing in it. It doesn't have an ego, it doesn't need me,
Right.
So I live by those. What were you talking about was it last week, 2 weeks ago, the 7 truths?
7 principles of God.
Right, exactly. So
I missed Billy.
Things. And I just,
7 aspects of God.
Right. And, so like for me, let's say I'm angry, right? In AA, I was taught to, pray, God save me from being angry. Today, I ask, why am I angry? Why do I feel the way that I feel? What do I feel that I'm losing? What am I afraid of? What do I feel this person is taking from me? Or maybe I go, well, what is that person afraid of? Why do I feel that they tried to wrong me? How? And if I can start to ask those questions, questions of compassion, maybe I can be there for them in some way. Maybe I can get outside of my anger. So I still try and strive,
Nice.
to come from these places, and wherever, you know, I just, again, it comes back to me just wanting to enjoy my life and be able to walk through it a little bit easier. I just, you know, I'm sort of like, this is a little bit cathartic for me because it's something I've held close to the chest for a while, and I have, you know, I don't get to discuss it with a lot of people, which, you know, Pat, you're talking about like, you know, in the passage, just living through or showing through the way you act to teach somebody spirituality. You know, I was, before I started coming here, I was watching you on like Instagram and stuff, and I was like, fuck, I don't have that much in my life right now. I don't have a lot of people I can connect to on that level and talk to about it. And if I don't, I sort of lose sight of it, you know? So I needed to be here. I wanted to be here in this sort of setting so I can reconnect with all of that, because I've got my dad. I grew up with spirituality and stuff through my dad, but it's my dad. I don't want, like, it's, you know, there's other layers there going on. So I need
Preach.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know, like, it's just, there's other dynamics going on. I can't always be spiritual with my dad. He's like my biggest challenge these days, you know?
Same.
Yeah, you know,
Same.
I love the guy, but I fucking love to hate him too.
Maybe we'll get there though.
What, with my dad?
That could be cool.
That's-
And possibilities are endless.
Sure.
If we're doing this shit.
But anyways, you know, I think you can have it.
So
You just, as long as you don't think that you're God, you know, that's that'll get in the way.
Gus.
I think just, it says in the Bible, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open for you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be open. So when you say God, like, just having an open mind that there possibly is a God, and if he's there, like, show me or show yourself, that's enough.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Good
it.
point.
You know, and God will show himself to you when it's right, when it happens. It doesn't have, like, for me, like, I had to be like, what's up, God? Like, you gotta show me something. Like, what am I doing here? Like, show me what it is, and he did. You know?
But like,
And like, and whether that's the universe or I mean, for me, like, if you've been through a fucking 7.0 earthquake, like, you know there's some other shit going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, for the earth to shake like that, or tsunami, you know what I mean?
That was me, actually. I did that.
It was.
Oh.
Sorry, Zach.
So I think just for the people who are like, I don't know God, or you, like, what's God? Like, I think that if you just have an open mind and maybe there's a God, like, he seeks that. Like, he's like, oh, you don't fucking believe him, to show you. Like, I'm gonna take that, and that. You're gonna be left with this, and then, oh, yeah. So,
Billy, did you wanna hold on?
Real quick, this is real quick. I just wanted to add my little 2 cents into this. I was completely atheistic, agnostic, no concept of God, couldn't give a shit. And when God showed himself to me, I was about to die. I was about to die, very sudden, violent death, and I knew I was dying. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I knew I was about to die. And out of nowhere, I heard myself say the words, "Oh God, please help me." And, you know, over the next 20 years that I've been recovered, I've said hundreds of thousands of prayers, all kinds of prayers, long prayers, short prayers. prayer, written prayers, every kind of prayer. And I can honestly say the most honest and most sincere prayer that I ever said were those 3 words. Desperation prayer. God help me. And with that, a lot of stuff happened. That's all.
Billy, did you want to share? Okay, I just want to say one quick thing. I actually don't know if there's a God. But if I have an open mind and some humility, then
that's enough.
Yeah, like so my life, all I know is my life's a little better when I'm doing this stuff. And I mean, I was in so much pain before that I can't do that anymore. So every fucking day I'm looking for God. Because I don't know about whoever else, but I'm not able to say I know for a fact anything, really. Especially not that there's a God. I don't even know what the fuck that means. I'm just being honest, like. But I try to do this shit, the stuff that this guy, Jesus, who may or may not have, this shit works for me. Could say that I believe in God. It doesn't really fucking matter, like
none of us have been like, what's up, God? Give me a high five. Like, I met you.
Well, maybe. You know what?
Why are we saying him?
Maybe.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
God's got
But wait,
No one here.
Billy. Sorry, Billy.
I really like what she said. Can you
And then.
I said, as long as you stop self-deification and you destroy the ego and realize that you're small and that there are things so much bigger than yourself, that can be your higher power. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a dude in a white cloak with white beard.
Right.
It doesn't have to be like white Santa.
Right.
You
I
know?
really like this self-deity because then we don't realize it, but that's what we're doing.
Every single one of us as humans, before you recognize that you're doing it, we all self-deify every single day. I mean, what is Instagram and media? You're trying to make yourself immortal. And we're coming on the age of Aquarius, or we're supposedly in it right now, where everything and everyone is controlled by their devices. We're not thinking mindfully. We're not present. There's not a whole lot of people doing this. First of all, because the media said that it's unsafe. And second of all, because it's kind of a lost art. So I think that everything that's gone down with Corona was like divine intervention in order to get people and the inhabitants on this planet back to square one of being like, you are small, you can't control this, but you can control how you treat others and how you treat yourself. So, it's just about realizing that you're this and everything else is working independently around you.
Billy, are you struggling with the God thing, or did you just say that for people that are?
I just said it for people that are because
Because I know Billy has a God in his life.
Yeah.
but it's like everything that everyone said. It's not.
I'm gonna say something real quick.
Like the second man grabbed a hold of coronavirus, I think fucked the whole thing up. Shut it down, ruined the economy. Like, let the virus do what it's gonna do. Kill some people, hopefully some people live, not like this fucking ruin the whole world.
No, dude, and the crazy part about what you just said is as soon as humans and their egos got a hold of this and God, they turned it into religion. And fucking a bunch of wars were fought.
Hellfire!
And there was a lot of separation. So I think that just in like looking and trying to learn about what God is, not understanding it, not ever knowing anything, like continuing to learn, then we keep finding it and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
I mean, if we'd have let it happen, I mean, a fucking meteorite hit the world millions of years ago, killed everything, and dinosaurs, we're still here.
We came back.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We're still here.
Alright, so if nobody else who hasn't shared wants to share, we're gonna let Peter share, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
I wanted to comment on what you said when you read the verses of the Bible, like asking, you shall receive. But they had that, I think, I don't know, years ago, that the secret was a big thing and everybody was flying around trying to request cars and boats and all that shit.
The what?
They were trying to request the
Secret.
secret cars and boats, and they wanted things.
Yeah.
But the thing is that when ask and you receive, if you're deserving, the earlier Emmett Fox book, when you're talking about merit or blessing and cursing, how do you live your life? If you rob, steal, cheat, kill, and you go, hey, I'm going to practice the secret, I mean, you're going to get a dark side of the force slap on you. So, you know, praying is a process of a cleanse, and when you continue to cleanse your own soul, in my humble experience, it shifts, because the more kindness, consideration, and being of service for nothing, for free with no expectation. When you're doing that and you pray and then you let it go, for me that's when the magic happened. Not when I was, you know, doing light stuff, dark stuff, light stuff, dark stuff, but when you started doing much more light-filled work of being of service, and you can consider that this sacred geometry of how a flower is formed, the same as a cauliflower is formed. I think that couldn't be by accident, and we couldn't be like born into this plane just to eat, drink, consume, and have sex, and then go away. And then I think about what's going on in the world now, and there's a forced grounding. You got to be here at your home. You can't be, you know, you can be, but people are busy on their cells all day. But you have a lot more quiet time and a lot more time to read, a lot more time to be with your family, and a lot of time to just disconnect with that confusion or that energy that just says, oh, I got to be here at 6:05, I got to run this appointment, I got to do this, I got to do that, and you never stop and breathe and spend any time with yourself and actually pay attention to people in the world around you. So this is a good thing, because we're getting to take a big look at actually what's going on in the world, and what are the beautiful things, and what are the things that are so vile that we didn't know about, that now is coming into our consciousness. So I think it's really positive that people are waking up to what's going on in the world, and if we're responsible, because there's one thing about accountability. I used to, younger, blame people. When you actually take on accountability, like instead of blaming people, which is a victim mentality. Because if I say I did all this garbage because they pissed me off or because they did that to me. But if I start taking on accountability for not only how I act, how people react to me, and take accountability for the way our ecosystem is being treated, and realize that it's a collective consciousness and it's not the weight of just on my shoulders.
No,
Yeah.
we need a timer.
Because he said over an hour. He said he was
Yeah.
Okay, wrap it up.
He said he was going to be timing, but didn't.
It's okay, we're listening. Just let people finish what he's saying.
His shift is over.
Still with it.
No, we're still
Yeah,
here.
well, I'm with you.
Sorry,
That's right.
Gus is supposed to be timing.
It's just that accountability is power, because when you blame, you give your spiritual power away. When you're accountable for all things, I'm accountable for how people treat me, how my personal and business relationships end up. Oh, it didn't work out because she was this way. What's my culpability in it? I'm accountable for everything that happens in my life, everything that's positive, negative, everything. And when you really take that on, when I took it on, it changed everything. And I learned it's okay just to walk one foot in front of the other in a divine piece of the universe, and just make a difference, one day at a time. That's it.
All right, let's wrap it up. Gus is going to lead us out in a prayer of his choice. Thank you all for coming, joining us online. It's been amazing. And we're not going to hold hands because of COVID.
We don't hold hands.
That's good.
Our Father,
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. There you go.
love whistle.
Did you read that whole book, Jonathan?
I skimmed it. I read the first, like, maybe 15 pages, and then I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna be able to read this before Monday, so I started speed reading. It's some good stuff in there. Have you read it?